we at Manchester United, we were going to win every game. And similarly with Wayne, you know, he had an issues with Wayne, and we would have big discussions about Ronaldo because there was rumours around. We always felt that he would move probably to Madrid at some stage. You know, 80 million payable up front in our bank account.
How close were we to getting Ronaldinho?
I didn't get a good vibe. If Barcelona hadn't been there, we'd have got them. Dave Brailsford was doing an audit at the moment with Jean-Claude Blanc. Brailsford has shown, albeit in slightly different sports, you know, that he's a winner as well.
Mr Woodward.
You know, and I was available, but I think he wanted to plough his own furrow.
It's a 5 with 5 with 5, and you already know this.
Do you know what? Let's get straight into it. I mean, like, I'd love to know, like, how do you feel? What's your feelings about your time at Manchester United when you was there? When you look back, the success and everything that we had?
Well, when I look back, I think the most important thing was the enjoyment, and it was a privilege to be associated with the club. You know, I actually sort of said back in I was a Manchester United fan, and I said in the, when was it, sort of around late 70s, my dream job was to be finance director of Man United. Never think it would come around. Then it came around in 1997. I got the opportunity to move up. I was living in the south of England, move up and join the club, and as finance director. I was previously finance director for a tour operating company, and to get into the game was brilliant. And then the Premier League had been going, for 5 years. The game was growing, and I saw the opportunities there were sort of, how should we put it, you know, pretty impressive. And so, you know, I went up there, quickly got given new responsibilities, and then became the deputy chief executive in 2000. Then when Peter Kenyon was lured to Chelsea by Mr Abramovich in 2003, I was offered the job of chief executive and stayed with that in 10 years. So when I look back, it was fantastic. I mean, it was a privilege to work in sport. I think a lot of people around, if you love sport, you know, to get into it is brilliant. And people would think, you know, what does it mean? And so I would look back and say we achieved a lot, but it was really good fun.
Is it the winning that you love and miss, or you think about, or is it the profits that you generated?
No, it's the winning. I mean, I think we always had, and I think it's important in football generally to understand, you know, it's quite unique, or sport's quite unique, because it's, you know, you've got a balance between it being a business and a sport. If you go too far to the business side, you're going to make mistakes. You go too far to the sports side, you're going to make mistakes. So it's that balance. So ultimately, we at Manchester United and most clubs, I believe, understand that what happens on the pitch drives everything. Because if you do well on the pitch, the way the football finances are structured, you get more money in. And that money is largely profit, be player bonuses and things like that, but largely profit. And you reinvest that back into the pitch, into players, into new players or players' contracts, into the training ground, into the ground in terms of capacity. Sponsors follow, and that virtuous circle works. So you've got to have a winning team. You've got to have a team that's sort of up there challenging, hopefully winning trophies. And for me, that was the best thing. Actually winning a trophy was, you know, phenomenal. And you could see the tangible efforts that you put in terms of, obviously with the manager and his scouts and everyone, you know, putting that team together, and it actually coming off was fantastic. So you always knew if you win, the rewards are going to come. It's as simple as that to me. And I think, as I say, if you focus too much on the business and worry about that, you're going to make mistakes.
You used to like the parties as well, didn't you? The parties.
I love the parties, Rio. I remember those moves of yours; they were fantastic. No, but I think that was good, as you know. I think what we did at Manchester United, we every time we got to a final, we had a party.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had to prepare for that in advance of knowing the results. So there were some good parties, and there were parties that perhaps slightly longer to get going because we'd lost the final. Whatever.
They ended up good as well, though, didn't they?
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, they ended up good, and I always thought this because I remember the following day, the players, the scouts, you had a bit of a break, deservedly, and I knew that then was a very busy time because of transfers. So I'd wake up with a headache or whatever. Think, got to go out and try and do this deal, that deal, or whatever. But they were great, and not only were they sort of obviously all members of staff, and I think they still do this, all members of staff were invited to a cup final and things like that, which was good because ultimately, you know, football clubs are, you know, very small in terms of numbers, big in terms of brands, and it's a matter of making sure that we look after everyone the same.
I always get asked about, like, because your name comes up alongside Sir Alex Ferguson a lot when people discuss in the past and my time at United, and I always go back to a moment that we had. We used to have like a bit of a leadership group in the change room, like Nev, Giggsy, myself, and a couple of others. And I always use this as a story that I've kind of encapsulates who you are and how I see you, is that we were moaning about having to do too many hours a week or a month commercial work.
Yeah.
This is when the commercial started generating more money, and so there's obviously more time comes with that. And I was there going, we were going, oh, this is out of order. We're not getting paid for our time anymore, and we're having to do this. The club are earning so much more millions. We deserve a piece of the pie. And then we called a meeting, I think, with you, didn't we? And you came to it and you sat down and you just let us all rant. And we're all given our 10 pence worth. And at the end of it, you went, guys, with all due respect, you guys, your contracts now, you're okay to be like that. But anyone who signs from this point in the small print in that contract will be that there's a designated amount of hours that you have to do. So if you don't like it, you don't sign on again and renew your contract. If you want to renew, that's going to be in there. And we all just shut up, just sat there and went, okay, we want new deals.
Because it's a balance, Rio. Yeah, exactly. It's a balance, Rio, and I think that's right. And I think, ultimately, it's things like that we understood, or I understood with Alex, or Alex's education. What you players had to be fit, ready for the game, motivated, and all that. So it was about getting that balance right. And so it's little things like getting a private plane for certain players to come back after international duty. Say, well,
we used to love that.
Yeah, but you say it wasn't necessarily in the budget. But you say, Alex says we've got a big game Sunday, we've got to do it. You just do that sort of thing. Or Manchester United has a fantastic pitch now, but believe you me, before you came and probably after you came, the pitch wasn't that great. So towards the end of the season, you say, Alex will say, we need a new pitch, and you say, well, actually, that's £750,000 or thereabouts. But you say, right, we'll find the money for that, because that could be another 3 points. That could be the difference between winning and not winning the league. And so those sort of things come in. So I think as long as you understand that what happens on the pitch drives it, I think you've got a good starting point, and that's always what we try to achieve.
You just spoke there about something that was quite amicably sorted with Rio, but I know he was never a permanent good boy. Talk to me about some of the times where you've had to butt heads against him.
Well, not against Rio. I think Rio was always very polite, as you can see with that Mr Gill. But I think ultimately, I would sort of, with certain players, you'd have some issues. But by and large, I was sort of removed of that, because I'd have butt heads with Alex and things like that, and we'd have disagreements or this, that, and the other. But ultimately, if Alex had certain issues, there were certain things that had to be sorted out. Like Alex wasn't happy with some of Rio's private investments at some point, if you remember. But but they were sorted out, because ultimately, it was about getting the team focused, getting the team prepared and ready to take on the new challenge. So, but I think I always said with these things, as I would fall out with Alex, that and we could have some quite sort of heated arguments, but ultimately we were both doing it for the right reasons, i.e. because we wanted Manchester United to win, and this was for the good of the club. It wasn't for him personally, it wasn't for me personally, about what was right for the club. And the important thing, I think, in any organisation, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch, is challenging people and not being afraid to challenge people. It's then how you move on from it and don't carry it around as a sort of a grudge or anything like that. And that's what we've tried to do.
In some of the fanzines at once about one of Rio's contracts.
Yeah, but there's always the case. I think, there's certain aspects, I think contracts are probably more difficult those days, but over the years, there's certain players that went very, very quickly. We look at Edwin van der Sar. Edwin would come in, with his lawyer, his agent, and we do it in an afternoon. And I quite like that, actually, because he sort of, A, it was done quickly, but B, he could hear some of the points I was making, about what the club could afford or what the position was or what our views were, and he sort of heard it, and he was bright enough to say, I understand that, and a bit of toing and froing, you got it done quickly. But other players were more difficult, without doubt. I wouldn't put Rio in that category.
Mine was about 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months. Edwin a day, I was about 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
This Mr Gill thing, where does it come from? Obviously, we're all showing you respect as you come in here, etc. But I think without even meeting you, Rio's always had, he's always had a great image of you, to the point where there's no other name that we can call you. If you can, I don't know how to go about it. But where did it start?
Well, it's a legacy of football clubs, because if you look at football clubs, and this is before my time, it was the chairman was Mr. Chairman. Okay. It wasn't Mr. Martin Ebbers or Mr. this and the other, Rio. The secretary was Mr. Merritt and things like that. So it's a legacy of that, and I think out of it, Rio just did it. Gary Neville used to do it. Phil Neville used to do it. More of the English players, not necessarily. I don't think Nemanja ever called me Mr Gill, but that sort of thing. So I think it's a legacy of that, and Rio just keeps it on, even though sort of he's long since retired, and we have a different relationship. But he's done that, so that's what it's at. Notwithstanding the fact that I always tell him to call me David, but he doesn't. But that's fine. I think there's a lot of respect, and as I say, that's the history of football clubs, really. So, yeah.
And you mentioned, obviously, you're talking about contracts here, etc. When you came in, you have Steve's let me know quite a lot of information. He's a massive United fan. You were one to take the commercial levels to another level when it came to Man United. How did you prioritise that? Are you sitting down going, right, these are the areas that we're going to focus on, player sponsorships? How does it go?
Well, I mean, as I say, go back to the players would be the crucial parts in the first instance, but that's the driver of it. So I would be working with Alex, throughout the year. Although the transfer windows are clearly 2 periods, we would work throughout the year to look at what the player outlook was like, what the contract situation was like, what the youth team were coming through, what the scouts were looking at. So always planning for that and then getting the action together. So out of that, we had quite a sort of we instituted sort of a ratio of 50% of our total turnover, our total revenue, could be spent on wages, total wages. So the players, the manager, the coaches, all the off-field staff like myself, etc. And if we were around that level, then we'd have a very sustainable, very well-run club, because it would allow us to retain profits, would allow us to reinvest in the business, get new players, and still attract the best players, and which is the main thing. So
are they still doing that now?
I think there's probably a guideline. UEFA brought in some rules which I won't bore you with today because they are quite complicated and whatever, but they're trying to look at that. But I think that's the ultimate thing. The thing about football is there's enough money coming in, it's how it's spent.
Yeah.
And but in answer to your questions, you have that. Then the commercial side, or the ticket sales and everything like that, we had good people in all of those areas driving and running that to make sure that we could deliver and increase those revenues, because every pound of revenue extra we brought in, it's 50 pence could go. We could say go to players and attract the players. So it's all of those areas, and I think what's happened at Manchester United, our vision, so to speak, was to be the best football club in the world, both on and off the pitch. And you never achieve. That's a goal. It's a bit arrogant you don't achieve it, but that's our goal. So in order to do that, we have to have not only the best players, the best manager and coaches and whatever, but also the best people in their different areas, whether it be on the commercial side selling, whether it be in the finance team, whether it be in the legal team, whether it be in the ticketing team and executive sales and events. So it's all of that, bringing it all together, and with that focus of saying a lot of money coming into football, how do we generate more, and therefore which enables us to put that back into the business, which is the football side.
Well, I had that vision and completed it. That's unreal.
I wouldn't mind going back into the business side, but there's something you just said there that I think we have to drill into a bit. You said you sat down with Sir Alex, and I assume one of the chief scouts. Was that the team deciding transfers and targets? Effectively,
yeah. I mean, ultimately, Alex had the say, and then we worked together. So I would have a normal sort of. I'd go to Carrington every Friday. That would be a formal thing. Go through with Alex, which would go through. Depends on what was happening certain times of year. Go through what was happening on the players, or go through on his issues, and we'd meet for an hour and a half or so, 2 hours. Go through that, and we'd have a fairly simple sort of set of documents which looked at each of the player, traffic light system, what the contract situation was, what the various other things, and the youth team coming through, will they make it, won't they make it, and that would be the driver. And then Alex would be good at assessing it and determining where we need to look at. He gives the direction to the chief scout, and they go out to look for replacements or look at issues, and then come back. And ultimately, coming into the summer, obviously sometimes in the winter when we bought, say, Patrice and Nemanja, but by and large we try to do more of the business in the summer. He would say, right, those are our key targets, and then it was up to me. It's changed slightly now because sporting directors have come in, and the whole how should you put it, those areas are expanded clearly. But I was doing those deals, and I'd have legal support if necessary. And
so you'd reach out to the club.
Yeah, reach out to the club, exactly. And contact them.
A phone call, chairman.
Just saying what's interested, what's going on, and then and each deal was sort of the same, but also slightly different. And there are certain players there might be competition for and more difficult to get. Clearly, other players we knew we would get to. So, for example, the sort of I remember just on that as a funny story, because Peter Kenyon was the chief exec at the time, and we were looking at Rio So we made an offer for to Leeds. Peter Ridsdale was the chairman at the time, and you probably heard this story. Anyway, so I went over to Peter Kenyon's house, which is in the sort of in the Cheshire countryside, and Peter Ridsdale was coming over, and so we'd faxed him an offer for Rio, and Peter Ridsdale responded, "Well, that might buy his right leg," and that was it. You see, so
Wow.
so each different, and I think how you use the agent, how you work with other clubs, and this, that, and the other. But that was the basis of the way we're doing it. But ultimately, to your question, Alex had the final say, quite rightly, and certain clubs have much more of a collegiate way to determining who comes in and this, that, and the other, and then the other sporting director working presumably with the finance director, with the legal director to put it all in, and that whether it's because it's more complicated now or whatever, I don't know, but ultimately, that was a key aspect of my job, was to actually bring someone in. And Rio was always very interested. I used to get these texts, "Hi, Mr Gill, who are we bringing in? Who are we bringing in?" during the winter, and I said, which is good, because I mean, two things: one, I couldn't tell him because whatever, but B, it demonstrated to me the players were really interested, wanted to know how the team was improving, what we were doing, and that's what we wanted.
When did that negotiation begin? You don't wait till the window opens, surely.
No, it depends on certain ones. You complete it. No, some you may do. I mean, depends, because it was always fluid. But the actual detailed negotiation, buttoning it down, was could be after. So, for example, Michael Carrick, for example, we bought from Spurs. I spoke to Daniel Levy. We'd identified him, but I spoke to him at the Premier League meeting that summer, early when it was early June, and said, "Look, we're interested in Michael." And as with Daniel, it took 3 months to do, but we got it done. So, so each of them are different, is what I'm saying, and you can prepare them. But
I feel so late still.
we would try to do it quicker. Yeah, we would try to do it. We'd have our ducks in a row, so we would know what our strategy was, what the targets were. We'd have the approach we were going to take, the broad parameters of the deal, whether it be on the player wages, whether it be on the transfer fee. We had rules on agents, what we would pay agents at the time, which we adhered to. So all of that. So it wasn't as if you were starting straight away. You had the ducks in a row, but actually then triggering the process might be delayed. It depends. It would be slightly easier, because that's when it's a domestic transfer, I think it's slightly different to a foreign transfer, because you could easily ring up another club, in Spain or Italy and say about it. I don't think that would really impact the 2 seasons. But we suddenly rang up Spurs with 4 games to go and say, "What about Michael Carrick?" It might be a bit more problematic, I think.
It's mad. Going back to your point about asking about players, we won in Champions League, and just as I was walking into the party afterwards, when we went in 2008, I saw you, didn't I? And I said to him, "Look, come on, Mr Gill, who are you buying? I need to know." And you went like, "Just go and have a party, man. And relax yourself. Go and enjoy it." And I was like, "Just give me one, please, one."
That was when we brought up Burberry deadline day as well.
Yeah.
But I like, as I say, I like that, and I think if you look at the character of the players there, not necessarily as sort of open as Rio, but a lot of them, I'm sure they're all very interested in what we're bringing, and the best players that like the squad to be strengthened, and they like to be challenged, and they always want to know who's going to come in, who's going to get better. And the best players, you would know much better than me. You can tell me. I never felt were worried about their place or their number of games, and in the way that Alex Ferguson managed the squad, the sheer number of games meant you were going to get, that has certain 11, but all players will get a good slug of games during the year, wouldn't they?
There was a good core of players who probably knew they were going to play.
Yeah.
And they would be the ones probably that would drive wanting to know and wouldn't be fearful of who's coming when. Players on the periphery would be like, "Okay, hopefully someone will come in my position." Do you know what I mean?
What's your most proudest moment whilst working at Manchester United?
It depends. I mean, the best moment, I think, was lots of winning trophies, but the best one was in 2007 when we won the league. We hadn't won it for a while, and I think because as a CEO we come in and I think we hadn't done it, so to win that was fantastic. So that was great. But all the trophies were great. I loved winning the trophies and having the parties, and then the rest was just I think we continued to develop the club in terms of the staff and things like that, and I think we had some good initiatives there.
I want to quickly elaborate on that. Did you ever feel at one point that it was going to be hard to come back to the top when Abramovich came in and
Not really.
is there because they're spending all this money?
They were, but we got some of that for Veron and something like that, so we did quite well. So No, but I think that's a good thing about football, isn't it? It's always competition, and I think it means that there's always going to be probably even more teams can win the league now than previously. But I think the very fact that we haven't got a league like Germany, although Leverkusen are doing quite well this year, or PSG or whatever, I think made it very attractive. So I think all that did was effectively galvanise us and make sure that we sort of worked even harder to do well. So, for example, I remember when I joined United, and you look at the number of points we won to win the league in the late, it's like 76, 78. So I remember Alex saying that effectively, if you sort of get 2 points a game, i.e. win your home game, draw your aways, you're going to be there or thereabouts. And that used to be the norm. Now you get teams winning with 90 odd, and we had to change. And Alex always felt, you have a slower start. We had to hit the ground running from August, to win the league. So I think competition is great. You learn through competition and you develop it.
Sorry, this is a selfish one. This one, I just want to know, what's your thoughts on how Arsenal are redeveloping? Obviously, since Arsene Wenger's gone, we went through a little bit of a lull. When you're looking from the outside in,
I don't know.
You don't care.
Yeah, he's stacking the trophies up.
No. I think they've done some good player deals and things like that. I think Arteta.
He doesn't care.
I don't really care.
This is Mr. Man United here we're talking to.
Yeah, I don't really care.
My last question, Mr. Gill, right, before we go, is we won the double. We won the Premier League and the Champions League in 2008, right?
So you don't know that tune.
And
the double, FA Cup and Premier League.
And I remember getting on the plane. I was in a bad way, hangover, by the way, and I just remember being told. I remember asking, so what's the route we're taking on the open bus tour, open top bus tour? And I remember being told there isn't one. I was like, what? Why didn't we have a tour?
The council
It was Rangers, wasn't it?
You can't win the Premier League and the Champions League and not do a tour.
Should have done, I agree.
Rangers
in retrospect, you
Manchester.
did it, but I think they're much more organised now. Manchester, perhaps at the time more difficult. We should have done it. I agree. I can't remember the exact reasons why we didn't do it. We should have done it. So.
Yeah, they're more organised now because they only have to have them one deep for City, so it's not hard, is it? They have 3 stewards and 4 cones out. It's sorted.
But I think, going back to your point, aggressing, just working for the club is brilliant.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough to play football. I played, as a lad and this and the other. I wasn't good enough. So to actually work in it and combine, that and whatever, it's a privilege. And I think, people say to me, or if someone came to me today and I was, 25 years younger and said, look, you can join Man United, even with it, I said, fantastic. I mean, until you get in it, everyone's interested in it, or sport in particular. And Manchester United's place in that. And I tried it when I was there. That's why I worked with the FA, worked with the Premier League, worked with UEFA, because Manchester United should be outside in these bodies, trying to, affect how the game's going and be influential and be involved. So to me, it was all great. It's difficult to pick out one or two particular things, but winning trophies, seeing other staff develop and just being involved day to day. I used to love it.
Did you know Mr. Gill's son used to play for Man United?
No way.
Ollie.
Ollie, yeah.
What's he doing now?
He's like his dad. He's born accountant.
Is he?
He's a Deloitte. He's a Deloitte.
Earning the money though, I bet. He's a centre half, left footed centre half.
Yeah, he's all right.
He's good, man.
Yeah. No, it was. No, it's. So I would love to have played, but unfortunately, not good enough.